Before we get started, if you find yourself enjoying this story, please consider giving it a like and hit subscribe. As a new and growing channel, every subscription is incredibly impactful. Thanks for supporting our channel and enjoy the story. Emergency alert. Shut your curtains now. That was the first thing I saw on my phone at 2:14 in the morning. I'd been lying in bed, drifting in and out of a restless sleep, when the blaring tone jolted me upright. At first, I thought it was a storm warning, maybe a tornado or a flash flood. We've had our fair share of weird weather around here. But no, the alert was short, surreal, and downright unsettling. Emergency alert. Shut your curtains now. Do not look outside until further notice. I stared at the message in the dim glow of my phone screen, half convinced I was still dreaming. Who sends an alert like that? A citywide joke? A hacking incident? But the official header looked very real, the same format used for Amber Alerts. I live in a small rental house at the edge of town, not far from a patch of woods that goes on for miles. My windows face the tall pines, and I've always liked having the curtains open at night, especially during a full moon. But the message on my phone demanded the opposite, and a tiny part of me decided to obey. Before I could question how ridiculous it seemed, I scrambled out of bed and peered at my window. Reluctantly, I tugged the curtain shut, my hands trembling slightly. Another phone alert dinged. This time, it was a text from my best friend Ray, who lives 2 streets over. "Dude, are you seeing this? What the hell does it even mean?" I just got it too. "Are you okay?" She didn't respond right away. I guessed she was probably doing the same thing as me, closing curtains or maybe calling her mom, who lived in the next state over. My parents were asleep in their own place across town, so I considered calling them too, but something held me back. If there was a real emergency, part of me didn't want to cause a panic or wake them up, because what if it turned out to be nothing? My phone buzzed again, the same screeching tone as before. Emergency alert update. Maintain complete darkness in your home if possible. Do not open your doors for anyone. This was no hack or hoax. The local authorities were doubling down, telling us to stay in the dark and keep everyone out. At 2:20 in the morning, you can't help but feel the primal part of your brain stir, telling you that something is out there, something that knows we're inside. I flicked off my bedroom lamp, which I had turned on after the first alert, and I tried to breathe quietly. My small house, once comforting, now felt like a trap. I texted Ray again. "Holy shit, are you okay? Did you close all your curtains?" "Yeah, I'm freaking out. Lights off, door locked. We should call each other." "Good idea." Within seconds, my phone buzzed. I clutched it, feeling sweaty despite the chill in the air, and answered. Hearing Ray's voice was a tiny relief. She sounded just as rattled as me, which oddly made me feel less alone. "Did you hear anything outside?" she whispered, like someone might be eavesdropping. "Are those sirens? Helicopters?" "No," I whispered back, as if the walls had ears. "It's too quiet. It's freaking me out." Ray sucked in a shaky breath. "Listen, my cousin works part-time for the county's emergency services. I tried calling him, but it went straight to voicemail. I don't like this. What if it's some chemical leak or a manhunt or something else?" Neither of us wanted to finish that thought. The idea of something else conjured up every monster from our childhood nightmares. We might be adults now, but at that moment, we were just a pair of terrified kids in pajamas. We stayed on the phone, barely talking, just listening for any clue from the outside world. I found myself pressing an ear to the wall, straining to detect a passing car or a neighbor's TV. Nothing. Even the wind outside seemed to have died. Time crawled by. After maybe 10 minutes, I heard a muffled sound, like someone walking on my lawn. My house is old, with thin walls, so it's easy to hear when someone's on the property. Footsteps circled the side of my house, crunching fallen leaves. I forced my feet to move towards the living room, stepping carefully to avoid any creaking boards. The curtains there were also closed, but I could see slivers of faint moonlight sneaking in around the edges. The footsteps came closer to the front window. It was like whatever it was had a purposeful stroll, as though searching for something. "Hello?" A voice called, muffled by the window glass. I swallowed a scream. The voice was low, raspy. "Hey, I got stuck outside. Let me in." I don't know how to describe it, but something about that voice was off. Almost as if the person had never really spoken before and was trying to mimic the way that humans speak. My tongue felt numb. The alerts rang in my head. "Don't open your doors for anyone," Ray whispered frantically in my ear. "What's happening?" "Who's that?" "There's someone outside," I whispered. My entire body trembled as a shape pressed against the living room window. They knocked twice, and each knock sent vibrations through the glass into my bones. "Please," the voice insisted, still too low and strange. "I need help." I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just prayed they'd go away. The handle on my front door jiggled. Ray was nearly hyperventilating on the phone, but stayed silent. Then the rattling stopped. The footsteps retreated, circling around the side of the house again. Then everything fell quiet. I let out a strangled breath. "They're gone, I think." "What did they say?" "That they needed help, but it didn't sound right," I replied, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "Like they were faking it." "God, Ray, what the fuck is going on?" She didn't have an answer, and for a while, neither did I. I gathered my courage long enough to grab a blanket and pillow, and I huddled in the corner of my living room, phone pressed to my ear. Ray did the same in her house. We kept the line open, dozing off sporadically, afraid that if we truly fell asleep, we might wake to something unspeakable standing over us. When dawn finally broke, my phone buzzed again, with an update from the city. Another emergency alert, but this time in text form. "Update. Remain indoors. Keep curtains shut. Further instructions will be sent by noon. No relief, no explanation, just more warnings." Through a narrow gap in my living room curtains, I saw a pale, overcast sky outside. The street looked normal, empty but normal. No roving police cars, no crime scene tape. I wondered if someone else in town had opened their door during the night. Ray and I talked on the phone as we forced down stale cereal for breakfast. We debated checking on her mom or my parents, but the alert insisted we remain indoors. She offered to drive to me, but that meant stepping outside and violating the instructions. Neither of us wanted to risk it. It wasn't until around 10 a.m. that we heard the first official broadcast. The local radio station cut into its usual morning show, with a shaky-voiced DJ announcing they had an emergency bulletin to read. Ray held her phone to the radio and let me listen over our call. "Fairwood County residents, do not leave your homes under any circumstances," the DJ read. "Cover windows, avoid direct sight lines. Should you witness anything unusual outside, particularly unusual individuals, do not engage. Law enforcement is investigating reports of masked individuals who may be posing a threat. Further details to follow." Masked individuals? I thought about the person or thing that knocked on my window. Could that voice have been muffled by a mask? I couldn't know for certain. Noon arrived, and so did the promised update. Just another curt message telling us to keep all window coverings secured until nightfall. A citywide curfew is in effect. Lock your doors. The warnings were piling up, but the authorities gave no explanation. My mind conjured horrifying possibilities. Maybe the outside air was contaminated. Maybe a contagion was turning people into... I don't know. I remembered old stories about skinwalkers or shapeshifters that lurk in the dark, but we were seeing broad daylight. It didn't match anything I knew. By mid-afternoon, I was jumpy at every little sound. Ray and I kept the phone line going almost non-stop, though sometimes the call dropped and we had to reconnect. My phone battery was dying quickly, so I set up a portable charger. Then, around 3 p.m., something weird happened. The sky outside dimmed abruptly, like a thunderstorm was rolling in. The forecast hadn't predicted any storms, but the clouds above seemed to gather in swirling masses. The lights took on a sickly greenish tint. A sudden pounding of rain began streaking across the windows in thick sheets. I listened to it drumming on the roof, feeling more uneasy by the minute. Ray said softly, "Is it raining there too?" "Yeah, out of nowhere," I replied. "It's a downpour." Lightning cracked, startling me so bad I nearly dropped my phone. The thunder rolled, rattling the walls. Through the curtain gap, I could see water drenching the street when I heard footsteps again on my porch, splashing in the rain. Ray must have heard me go silent because she hissed, "What's wrong?" "There's someone outside again," I whispered, crouching low behind the couch. "They're on the porch." A voice boomed through the wood. "I'm from the sheriff's department." "Open up. I need to speak with you." Every hair on my body stood on end. Sure, the authorities might come to the door too, but the instructions were explicit. Do not open your door to anyone. And something about the tone, like the person was speaking the words, but didn't quite understand them, didn't feel right. I forced myself to respond. "Slide your badge under the door," I managed, my voice trembling. Silence. "If you're the sheriff, show me some ID," I pressed, trying to keep my voice steady. The handle jiggled again, but there was no reply. Ray heard everything through the phone and was muttering curses under her breath. Then the voice resumed, quieter, as if not meant for me to hear. "They won't open. They're inside." Who was this stranger talking to? Were there more of them? The footsteps receded down the porch steps, lost beneath the roar of the rain. I realized I was shaking so badly I might drop my phone, so I clutched it tighter, glancing at the time. 10:03. Could I survive another night of this? Moments later, the storm intensified. An hour passed, then 2. The storm outside gradually began to weaken. By early evening, the alerts told us to brace for nightfall and to not open curtains under any circumstances. The authorities repeated that the individuals were still at large, but offered no real clarity. As dusk crept in, the streetlights outside remained off. Maybe the city had cut the power to them. Part of me wanted to fling the curtains wide open just to see if the world outside was still real, but I didn't want to risk anything. Around 9 p.m., Ray suddenly gasped into the phone. "I see headlights," she said. "Someone's driving down my street." She paused, then whispered, "They stopped in front of my house." "What do you see?" "I can't see anything. Curtains are still shut, but I hear an engine idling. Now it's off. They're walking up to my door." "Stay quiet," I whispered. "Don't open it." A soft knock echoed over the phone line, followed by another. Then a man's voice, calm and confident. "Ray, it's Officer Byrne. I'm here to escort you to a safer location. Open up." I recognized the name. Officer Byrne was a family friend of Ray. Could this actually be him, or was it the same impossible imitation as before? "He knows my name," she hissed. "He even knows my family. Maybe it's real." All the official warnings said no, but this was someone she trusted. I had a bad feeling. "Ask for the code," I blurted. Ray and Byrne had a code word they used in high school to confirm it was really them. Some private inside joke. I used to tease her about it, but I couldn't remember what it was. She must have remembered because a second later, I heard her speak. The voice outside paused for a long moment, the tension almost cracking my phone speaker. Then he responded with something, but it was too quiet for me to catch. Ray gasped softly. "That's the wrong code," she whispered to me. We both waited on tenterhooks for the next thing to happen. The voice outside the door tried a few more lines. "I'm your friend, Ray." "It's me, Officer Byrne." But it sounded uncertain now, like it was piecing together phrases from memory. Ray didn't answer. After what felt like forever, it sounded like it walked away and left. She exhaled in a sob. I told her to stay strong. The radio piped up again, crackling with static. An official-sounding voice repeating the same instructions. "Do not open your door. Do not look outside. Remain silent." Midnight approached just as I began to get tired and close my eyes. Red and blue lights strobed through the slit in my curtains. I crawled carefully to the window. Against all common sense, I peeked through the smallest gap in the fabric. Outside, an armored vehicle was parked in the street. People in dark uniforms were shining flashlights into yards and houses. One of them stepped onto my porch, scanning the area with a handheld device that beeped sporadically. Were these the real authorities? Their uniforms had patches I didn't recognize, some special operations or government seal. They placed odd devices on my neighbor's lawn, small cylindrical machines that glowed green. My phone vibrated again with yet another alert. Final phase initiated. Stay indoors. Failure to comply may result in extreme risk. Something big was happening, something beyond my understanding. At least it seemed these uniformed figures were cleaning it up. I stayed hidden, my eye pressed to that tiny gap, watching as two figures approached the end of the street. They aimed a device at a shape in the shadows. There was a flash of light, and the shape crumpled to the ground. One figure signaled to the other, and they dragged the shape into the van. I closed my curtains before they spotted me. That's what the alerts told me to do, right? Keep them shut. I scooted back to my makeshift corner, phone in hand. Ray was breathing softly on the line, half asleep. I couldn't even speak. I just prayed that these men or women in black gear were on our side. The rest of the night passed in a haze. At some point, I drifted off. When I opened my eyes again, pale daylight glowed behind the curtains. My phone was dead. Ray was gone from the line. I mustered the courage to open my living room curtains just enough to peer outside. There was no sign of the armored vehicle, no uniformed men. The street looked strangely normal. I checked my door. It was locked, undamaged. No official alerts had come in on my phone. It was still dead. But once I plugged it in, there were no new notifications. The radio station was back to playing classic rock, no mention of the previous day. It was as if the entire event had been erased. I stepped onto my porch for the first time in what felt like years, scanning for any sign of footprints or bullet casings, anything that proved last night had been real. Nothing. Just damp leaves and the faint odor of burning rubber. I dialed Ray. She picked up instantly, her voice cracking with relief. We shared stories. She'd seen the same armored convoy, heard a final alert that told them the threat was neutralized. But now the city's official website had no mention of it. The local news posted nothing out of the ordinary. In the days that followed, people around town acted like nothing ever happened. A handful of folks mentioned odd power surges or weird noises in the night, but no one talked about the emergency alerts. Some looked at me blankly when I asked, as if I was telling them a bad joke. We tried to bring it up in the local social media group. Our post got removed within minutes. We decided to keep quiet, although it drove us crazy. I wish I could tell you that this was just some bizarre internet rumor, that it's the kind of story you'd read once and forget by next week. But I can't shake the sense that something bigger happened. Something that left a mark on me and on my entire town, even if most people pretend not to remember. So if you ever get an alert in the middle of the night, telling you to lock your doors and keep your curtains shut, don't hesitate. Don't question it. Just follow those instructions because there are things out there, and they're very good at mimicking what you want to hear. They might wear the faces of people you trust or call your name through the window, but they're not human. And if you look outside at the wrong moment, if you break that single line of defense, you might see them. Because once you make eye contact with what lurks outside, there may be no going back.